Okay, we'll reconvene to open session. So resolved that the Board of Education reconvene to open session. The time is?
6:59 p.m.
Thought I timed it perfectly. I tried so hard to time that perfectly. All right, 6:59:58. All right. I'll make a motion for that. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Maiden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Can you please stand and recite with me the pledge to the flag?
For the United States of America, to the republic
For which it stands, one nation.
visible with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So our first item on the agenda tonight is going to be our student board member remarks. So I pass it over to Bailey.
I've recently heard about Mr. Bellucci talking about word of having a swim team maybe come to Pauling, and I thought this might be discussed tonight at some point, and I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, so I can speak to that. Like everything else here in polling, and I have to say, the opportunities that are given to students, whether it is from a curriculum point of view or from an athletic point of view, for a small district are absolutely incredible. So what happened is Mr. Bellucci had gotten a request from one of the students at the high school if that individual could swim under his own banner, right, and be a part of a swim program. And Mr. Bellucci did indeed reach out to one of our Dutchess County school districts to see if that was something that was viable, and that district was more than happy to allow this student to come swim under the banner of himself and be a part of practices and meets. So yeah, we're excited about it. It's a step in the right direction. So those students who may be out there who are swimmers, who want to swim in a competitive manner, can reach out and have a conversation along the way. And that's what happens, right? So when we're talking about surrounding school districts and working together, there are times, same thing happens now, it's happening with tennis, right? Girls tennis, that we are, we have a program linked with Brewster that we're able to do that. So and it's a great opportunity, and Bailey, thank you for bringing it up. Appreciate it very much, so thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll go into our next item on the agenda, which are presentations. And our first one is student recognition. We have Evie and Justin who are getting the Dunlop Art Awards.
Thank you. The podium, our high school principal, Ms. Callan, and our incredible art teacher, Ms. Pinelli, who are going to come up and talk a little bit about student recipients and their honors and what they did, and show everybody a little bit about the work behind the scenes. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiCarlo, and thank you, Board of Education, for welcoming our students who won at the Great Swam Competition. I am pleased and happy to present our art teacher, Carrie Pinelli, who can actually tell you the process that she goes through to get students ready, how it fits into her curriculum. And I also want to mention, for those of you who may not realize, that Ms. Pinelli is not only our high school art teacher, she is also the long-standing advisor for our peer leadership program. So she is intimately involved in the life of our school, both artistically and then outside as the liaison between our students and the community. So she fulfills vital roles. So I'm happy to be able to mention that as well, because she's the person behind the scenes who sometimes doesn't get the recognition. So without further ado, I'd like to present art teacher extraordinaire, Ms. Pinelli. And I always think as I go along the hallways, if only I had had an art teacher as creative and as patient as Ms. Pinelli, my illustrations might look a little bit better.
Mrs. Callan for the kind words. I'll speak to my students that are here tonight. The project that they had worked on was one that ends up being work that can be displayed at a local art exhibition, and we do look for our students to be involved in our community. So we have been participating in this exhibition for many years. I can't even count the amount of years that we've done it. I've been here 26 years, and we've been doing it longer than I've been here. And it does tie into our board goals of having a rich, locally based community and having our kids involved in things that are there in our surrounding area. So to start this project, what we normally do is we do take a trip to the Great Swamp. So typically we go to the Appalachian Trail Boardwalk, which is right down here on Route 22 by Native Landscapes, and the students get to go out for a plein air art experience where we do some drawing, we do some photography, and we look for our inspiration from the Great Swamp. Every year, the Frogs, Friends of the Great Swamp, they put out what they want their theme to be. Sometimes it's like what inspires you by the beauty of the swamp. Sometimes it's like focusing on the animals, the landscape, the flora. They give something out there that they'd like for the students to use as their inspiration. And this year, it was just focusing on anything that the swamp inspires you by. So we took our trip down there. The students brought their sketchbooks. They looked at things up close. They did some sketching. They did some planning. They took a lot of pictures. And then they needed to share with me the photos that they took for us to be able to print them and then work back in our high school art studio to develop what their compositions were going to be. When we started choosing for the compositions, we talked about that they could work very realistically. They could literally take the photo that they took at the Great Swamp and work directly from that, work in a very realistic manner. Or they could take many photos and synthesize their own composition of what their inspiration was from the swamp, what it means to them, how they felt, any emotional engagement with it. So they had a very large choice and lots of decisions to make as they went through this project. They were able to choose whatever media they would like to work with, and these students, Justin and Evie, Justin I've had for 4 years now in my classroom. Evie, this is my first with her, but she is a skilled artist on her own from outside of the classroom. They were able to choose what media choices they thought were going to be best for what they were trying to portray in their work. We worked for only about a week and a half on this, so this is a very quick turnaround due to the time of the year that it was at. We had just come back to school to get the trip to go together, and then to have it done in time for it to go up to Christ Church on Quaker Hill, which is where they hold this art show. The students had to work really hard to get this done. We, Pauling High School, had 27 works that were finished, that were matted, mounted, framed, and brought up there for display. And then the juniors and seniors, their work is put into the Dunlop Art Competition that the Frogs Association, I guess they're an association, that they sponsor, and their work is chosen, they're looked at, and they're selected by not only the technical skill of what the students showed, but also by what seemed there to be their emotional engagement, which often was by some of their writings or what they wrote, what they were doing about their artist statement and their work. So Evie, okay, had a second place out of there. You come up to me. You come on over. She is in my AP art class, and she is creating a design portfolio this year. And Justin. Justin has an honorable mention. Class, and he is doing a drawing portfolio this year. Can you? Yeah, go ahead, hold him high. Here we go, thank you.
Thank you both. Congratulations. And we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much, and congratulations to you both. That artwork is incredible, and I'm always so jealous of what people can do in art, and I can barely draw like a circle, and I need an art teacher like that. So congratulations again, guys. That's awesome. So on to our second presentation, we have our social studies curriculum update, K through 12. So I'll ask
Good evening. I'm Debbie Van Doren, and it is my pleasure to speak to you. Studies from K to 5. Very soon. Teachers from all 3 buildings had the pleasure of working with Putnam Northwestern BOCES consultant, Donna Merlot. She's a really amazing woman. She shared many ideas for hands-on activities, especially ones that promote geographical reason. She also shared resources that we can use in further unit and lesson planning, such as clickable layered maps. And it was really an awesome opportunity for us to work together, all 3 buildings, teachers from all 3 buildings. We're excited because there's a chance that we'll get to work with her again in the spring. She was very well received. Then we had some other professional development that I'd like to highlight. Grades 4 and 5 teachers participated in another workshop through Putnam Northwestchester BOCES with consultants Donna Merlot again and Nancy McGuire. In this PD, it was called a deeper dive, and we got to look more deeply at the curriculum that integrates ELA and social studies for 4th and 5th grades, respectively, which was really nice. There are also 2 teachers, myself and Miss Magnesio, have both attended a summer conference at the Library of Congress where we learned how to integrate primary sources into our teaching. It was really awesome to explore the library's vast collection, and also they utilized these thinking routines from Harvard's Project Zero that were really, really cool to work with and gave a lot of inspiration for the classroom. It is difficult in the elementary school, as I understand it, to manage to fit social studies into the day with the emphasis on ELA and math, but somehow our amazing ELA teachers are doing it. We have pumpkin globes from Miss Arnold's 3rd grade class. We have a 4th grade state project. We have Mrs. Mina's class singing songs about traveling to cities around the USA. And we also have a new 5th grade geography class that focuses on the 5 themes of geography in 5th grade to sort of buttress the students' geographical reasoning. I wanted to highlight a couple new 5th grade field trips that were pretty fun last year. We went to the Museum of the American Indian, which ended up being a much longer trip than I was hoping. I thought that we could take the FDR or the West Side Highway, but we had to go right down First Avenue all the way to Battery Park, and it might not be repeated, but it was wonderful. It's just longer than we were expecting. The museum is amazing. It really addresses a lot of the standards that we teach in 5th grade. There are wonderful hands-on exhibits of the Maya, the Aztec, the Inca, and also different Native American culture groups in the United States. A closer trip that we did that was new was the Sharp Reservation trip. The students loved it. They got to construct debris huts, which are basically like they had to just pick up sticks and whatever they could find in the woods and make a shelter on the fly. They also got to learn about pollution in the Hudson River, and there's a planetarium there, and they actually told stories about Native American constellation folklore, which was really neat. So there were lots of science and social studies tie-ins, which was great. And lastly, I've never shared this, and I think it's kind of cool, our Amazing Americas project. It's a culminating project for 5th grade. Students pick a country in the Western Hemisphere to research, and we integrate, it's social studies, but we also integrate math by looking at different demographics of the population, different charts. We integrate science by looking at innovative ways that different countries have addressed issues with environmental concerns. And there's art, we look at the culture, and students present to an authentic audience. Their families come in. It's really a celebration. They share their clothing, the artifacts, the food, and it's a really great event. Thank you. I'm done.
Good evening. My name is Chip Ackman. I will be covering the 6th through 8 portion of our presentation. Starting with 6th grade, currently we are working on our geographic reasoning skills, looking at the correlation of ancient cultures and their environment, how people came from point A to point B, and what are the resources that they're using. So we went through stratigraphy when we first started. The kids are like, what? And by the time we got done, they were pretty solid on it. Right now, we're currently working on looking at primary source documents to go along with what Ms. Van Doren said, and how those connections can relate to how we best learned through our history. Mr. Schoenberg has stepped off in the AI realm, and he is currently working on an AI project that supports local history, and the big focus is trying to get the kids to understand that AI is great, but there are limits to it. So when you're doing your research, you have to basically go back and check to make sure that what it's spitting out is information that you want. And those handy dandy URLs that they like to send you, are they real and do they take you to great spots? Mr. Banger worked with, that's really tough to see. Worked with the students on, again, primary sources, gearing them ready for the 8th grade trip last year, which was a resounding success. And I'll share some pictures. Yeah, thank you. Share some pictures in DC. I was fortunate enough to be on the trip. Students had a wonderful time. I have to tell you, having been on the trip a great many times, it was a phenomenal ride without phones. So thank you very much. One thing that we did learn is how many times you can actually tell a student what time it is, because with no phone, I literally in a day, probably 5,000 or 6,000 times. But they had a wonderful time. Weather held out except for the last day, which really didn't impact us too much because we were on the bus ride back. I believe the students got a lot, even with some of the limitations of some of the exhibits being down for renovations and other things like that. But I'd say if we can keep that going, please do. And I'll hand it over to my high school counterparts.
Good evening. I'm Mrs. Shook. I am representing my esteemed colleagues at the high school. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share the incredible work that's been happening up there. Just wanted to highlight that throughout the presentation, I focused mainly on our first 2 board goals. I've highlighted our 2 new course offerings for this year. Our 12th grade students at the high school are truly spoiled for choice. They must take a government and economics class, but they now have 3 different choices. So Ms. Pritchard has partnered with the Dutchess County Community College to offer 2 new courses this year, the American National Experience and Economic Issues. And I finally got it together enough to write my Irish History and Culture elective. Some of you may not know I am originally from Ireland, and I had been threatening to write this course for many years, and it's been really wonderful to finally bring it to fruition, and I'm hopeful that more students will sign up for it next year. In 9th grade classes and social studies, my global classes have been working on their map skills, building on the work that our colleagues in the elementary and middle school do with geography. I use the hands-on mapping activities as a way to have the students conceptualize where in the world our civilizations that we are studying are, the relationships to each other. And in AP World 1, which is done over 2 years, we have already participated in multiple Socratic seminars. Recent topics include debating the argument put forward by Jared Diamond in his The Worst Mistake in the History of the Human Race argument, where they take a position on whether or not the Neolithic Revolution was positive or negative. And we also use excerpts from a book called A History of the World in 6 classes. And that's a common trade book that a lot of AP World teachers use and the students really enjoy. My 10th grade students recently created a concert tour t-shirt as part of our Maritime Empires project. They had some fun using their creativity to design T-shirts that showcase the main themes of European exploration in the early modern era. They used some image generating programs such as Canva AI, and we had a lot of conversations about the need to label any AI generated images, just in terms of being good digital citizens, and they were really, really open to those conversations. AP Humanities this year is its biggest ever. It has 40 students enrolled. So Ms. Lisa Horn, and Ms. Casey Stacker have their work cut out for them with the 40 students, but it's been a real success. They participate in project-based learning, including Socratic seminars, gallery walks, where they exchange feedback on each other's one-pagers. I just included some samples because I just thought the student artwork was so beautiful. I had to bring it to you. The creativity that our students have. I mean, you saw it with Evie and Justin. It just never ceases to amaze me as somebody who does not have an artistic bone in my body. It's really just so beautiful and also historically very accurate. So other 11th grade students, both in AP Humanities as well as our US History Regions classes, took advantage of the beautiful weather that we had in the beginning of the year to make human timelines. This interactive activity allowed them to explore the historical thinking skills of chronology and causation while also building community and curiosity. So some exciting things happening in 12th grade, as I said, those new course electives. And students were able to visit the Dutchess County Courthouse. They even got some time with polling resident Judge McLaughlin, who kindly made time to discuss the workings of the court, as well as other court officers, stenographers, and the feedback from the students has been really positive. They also had a visit earlier in the year from the Dutchess County Commissioner of Jurors. So we're really making sure that our students have these authentic experiences. They're making these real world connections. They're going out into the world, and we're bringing community members into the building as well. As I said, we're excited to expand our new course offerings in collaboration with DCC. Additionally, students in the government course are going to visit the Franklin D. Roosevelt Library to complete a project tied to the special exhibit Signature Moments. They're going to work with their education specialist, Jeff Urban, to analyze letters from the famous, the infamous, and everyday people, composing their responses on refurbished typewriters, thanks, I think, mainly to Mrs. Callan, right? Yeah. So they're going to get an idea of how historically a lot of people communicated. I'm pretty excited to see how they deal with that. I wanted to share one of the best moments that we've had so far in the new Irish History and Culture elective. As part of our Irish sports unit, my students researched one of the 5 traditional Irish games, and then I was able to make a really wonderful community connection through our Dutchess County Gaelic Athletic Association, who jumped at the chance to collaborate. They could not have been more enthusiastic. 2 of their coaches came out and volunteered their time and taught not only my students, but we also had Mrs. Malloy's PE class join in, and we ran even, so they did some Gaelic football drills. Gaelic football, if you're not familiar, it's kind of a mix between soccer, rugby, volleyball. So they did some drills initially, and they were even able to run a modified game. And they also brought hurling. So if you are interested in sport, if you like lacrosse, I definitely recommend you look up hurley. It is the fastest game you will ever see, using these kind of modified hockey sticks. So luckily, a couple of my students are lacrosse players, so they really took to it very well. They even had me do it. And I managed to not injure or embarrass myself, which was kind of all I was hoping to get away with. So it really was a success. I'm so glad to have made those connections with the GAA, because they're hopeful that maybe they can come back to visit more of the PE classes, and maybe even they can do a unit on like football or hurling. Maybe not this year, maybe going forward, but it's been a really fruitful relationship, and I'm hopeful we'll be able to continue it. Wanted to highlight some of our professional development offerings that we have been doing. We're definitely concerned about the use of AI. So I am participating in the Hudson Valley Writing Project. Anytime there's a Hudson Valley Writing Project, professional development, I'm always eager to sign up. So I know Casey Stecker from the ELA department and Carolyn Herman, also from the ELA department. We're all part of this study group. It's only met once. It meets again this week on Thursday. So I'm optimistic that we'll get some good actionable guidance on how to utilize writing responsibly, and integrate it into our classes, and what are some best practices. There are a lot of teachers at Pawling High School right now working on the OLA language schools, including Deb. So we're really working to improve our Spanish skills, some more successfully than others. I'm doing my best. But it's been a really, really wonderful experience, and it's so fun to see so many folks from Pawling in different departments working to improve their language. It's also been not just a language instruction, but last night they did a whole section on being culturally sensitive to our Hispanic students, and we came away with some really helpful. Yeah, so the rest you can review yourself. I know that time is of the essence, and I just wanted to point out that once again, Ms. Horn is serving as a mentor teacher to a student from Mount St. Mary's College who has ingratiated himself so well with our students that at the beginning of the year, when the boys soccer team nominated staff members that have had a positive impact on them, he was one of the staff members nominated, which was very meaningful. Quick update on the Seal of Civic Readiness, and Ms. Horn, who runs it, wanted me to let you know that if you have any questions, to feel free to reach out to her. But I wanted to highlight the pretty astounding statistic that we are so proud that 76% of the class of 2025 earned the New York State Seal of Civic Readiness, and that's up from 54% in 2024. So Ms. Horn continues to inspire our students to put forth the work to earn that additional qualification. Your time.
Thank you guys so much. I'll open it up to any board comments or questions.
Thank you guys for your presentation. I just kind of wanted to follow up on what you were saying about AI. I have two seventh graders, so I did see the project. Seventh graders did, but I was curious what you're seeing as the challenges with AI, what you're seeing as the positives, and then moving forward, do you as a department feel there's things we need that we don't have? Are there resources we need? But just kind of how you're feeling and where you see things going.
Yes, so we have purchased, I believe the district has purchased Turnitin, which is kind of the gold standard in AI plagiarism detection. Ms. Herman took a course on it, and she ran one, quite quick overview training. We have definitely asked for more time. It seems like a fairly intuitive software, but it's something that I, as someone who's fairly technological savvy, but I would like some more instruction, and we talked about that already, having a little bit more instruction, because my understanding of it is the students complete the work in Turnitin so that you can be sure of the authenticity, I believe. Yeah.
So I also did a workshop this summer on AI, and there's a time and a place for AI in education. We all know that, that's where we're going, but trying to find where the limits are. Some of the feedback that we've were given was in your rubrics, define how AI can be used within an assignment so that, it's when they do turn it in, the nice thing is Google Classroom has modified their algorithm on there, so it will pick up on AI and plagiarism as well, and it'll tell you exactly where it is. So that's a big help. But understanding that it's a tool, not an end game. That's kind of, unfortunately, we're kind of at the beginning stages of where we're going to go, but just trying to define what are we doing in the classrooms with it, and when is it allowed, when is it not. And having that on the rubric is going to define it. Okay, it's fair game now, or no, it's not.
Reverted to paper and pencil. I'm really frustrated by it, and I think kids don't, I mean, like Chip was saying, it's very difficult kids don't understand. They will look at you, I didn't plagiarize. They really don't think that they're plagiarizing. So a lot of times I'm just finding it easier to go back to pen and pencil just to make sure that they understand and I think there aren't shortcuts in good writing.
I wanted to dig a little deeper on sort of the AI usage, because I think often we think about AI or talk about AI, with regard to sort of plagiarism, right? And students using it to generate, their homework or what have you. And certainly that's one aspect, and I'm glad that we are, aware of that and monitoring that. But there is a great opportunity for a lot of learning to happen in the usage of AI, particularly as it refers to critical thinking, right? How to use the tool. I think Mr. Ackerman, spoke briefly about that. And less, from my perspective, less concerned about when is the appropriate time, because I don't know that anybody here really knows. I would argue any time could be an appropriate time. Depends what you're trying to get out of it, right? Or what you're trying to do with it. So I would love in the future to hear a little bit more about sort of how we're exploiting AI for learning rather than sort of identifying what they, people shouldn't be doing, but what they could be doing or ought to be doing. Perfect. Perfect, thank
I
you.
just observed in Miss Pritchard's DCC government class, and she attended, and in our post-conference, we were talking about the course, because of course it's the first one, and she explained to me that at Curriculum Camp, that's run by Dr. Kirkus, Steve Malone ran an AI workshop. There is a tool where you use AI, it's a questioning tool. And so her students for the second part of Dutchess Community College, they have to do a research paper. She made a decision to use that, and, to try it, right? To use that AI questioning protocol, because students have to come up with a question and they're not going to be right, so she's not talking about writing or plagiarism, but it's using that AI tool to help them crystallize, to help them keep critically thinking about the question that they eventually want to research. And that's just today, I found out, and again, just like I'm in its infancy too, but that's how she's going to use it, and it came out of our curriculum camp.
The seventh grade project that I referred to did a nice job of kind of guiding students through, in a very intro use of AI, telling them kind of what prompts you would use, and then constantly revising the prompts and talking back to AI, telling it, be more specific. Actually, those sources are wrong. Actually, I asked you to do this. Actually, I said no Wikipedia. It was a good, I think, first take for my students, at least, who hadn't seen it. But, they had to put a lot of time in, and it was good for them to see what AI could do and how they could use AI to help them.
I was just curious what AI tools Mr. Schoenberg's using. Do you know? Yeah, that's fine.
ChatGPT.
You see?
Yeah.
Just go
Come
to
up to the podium.
Yeah, thank
you. So we can hear you out in virtual.
Everybody, I'm
area.
Jessica Garcia. I'm an ENL teacher, but I'm the ENL teacher for 7th grade. So I loved it because it leveled the playing ground for my English language learners using the AI tool. We use ChatGPT. And the best thing about the project was really the kids can answer and speak to it in any language. So, and their answers could be in any language. And they also had to change the coloring of the font so you can see what the kids were asking AI and what AI was responding. And then the final piece was after they had their 2-paragraph project on which local history project or which place they wanted to research, they had to handwrite it, which I think the purpose of that was for for the students to really make sure they're reading it and they understand what they were, handing in. And then they had to record themselves actually, reading the report. So it was really well done. And the kids enjoyed it. And I found the best thing for me, I found that all of the kids were able to do it. So just to kind of jump in, but it was ChatGPT.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments or?
Question about the electives. Are they teacher generate, like your Irish history class sounds awesome. Is that something that comes from both teachers and students or? And then the other thing, just to piggyback on that, is the DCC courses as well. How do we choose which ones we do and how we go about what that process looks like?
Sure. So I can speak to my experience coming up with that elective. So it's something that had been on my mind for a number of years, just having an interest in Irish history and thinking that, as somebody who's taught 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, the only thing that's really on the New York State curriculum about Ireland is the potato famine. And I think it has a lot more to offer than just that one horrific event. So I came to Mrs. Callan maybe 2 years ago and started talking about it. I collaborated with our wonderful guidance office and just polled the students, saying, is this a class you think you would like? And I got some pretty positive feedback. So I was able to apply for curriculum writing hours over the summer to put my units on Atlas. And then we had a lot of students sign up. Things change with their timetables, and it's a pretty small class, but I've had a lot of students tell me that they're hoping that they can take it if it runs next year. So that was my experience with that elective.
I think it's very much the same with, I've had teachers come to me saying, I'm interested in offering this DCC course. What's a little different with that is that if you, in a dual enrollment course with Dutchess Community College, the instructors have to go through a process. So I collaborate with the College Connections at DCC. If a teacher is interested in teaching a course, I have to send their resume, their transcripts. The head of the particular department then calls, they review them, they determine whether or not they will actually interview them, and then they interview them and they make a determination on whether or not they actually become an adjunct professor at DCC. So it's a little bit more of a process. So sometimes it can go either way. The only other, and of course, would be counselors and myself. So with the DCC government class, the counselors recognize that many of our students go to state schools. And so just like the English classes that we have, that those schools will accept or have accepted, it changes every year, those credits. And so it gives our students an opportunity to already have English and social studies credits. And so in that case, I think that probably was last year too, Ms. Shook. I'll go to the social studies department meeting and say, listen, we're interested in this. This is what we'd like to offer. And then is anybody interested in doing that? And Ms. Pritchard said she was willing to give it a go. And that's how it happens. And so it sometimes is, because we recognize what might be good for students. And then sometimes it comes from what students would like. I know in the past, our English department, when they were trying to come up with electives, they would do surveys and say, well, what are you interested in? As I think I've said here before, and as somebody who loves Shakespeare, I think many of them would love that, but unfortunately our students are not as enamored of a Shakespeare elective. But we keep trying. Is that answer?
Can I ask one thing along those same lines? And you might not have the answer to this. I think I agree with what you said about, the SUNY schools and the CUNY schools often take the DCC credits easily. And I think in general, often those credits transfer more than AP credits. But I was curious in terms of when students are applying to colleges, are we seeing that, very competitive colleges are still wanting to see AP classes? Are they viewing the DCC classes as the same? I
Okay.
was just curious, and you might not know the answer.
Well, I actually do. We discuss this all the time. Oh, well, I can never say that I know it exactly. So if my counselors were standing here right next to me, they would say that it depends every year, and even among the colleges, it depends. So for example, I can tell you just off the top of my head, a student I can think of who took a number of AP courses, went to the Syracuse University, and ended up going in as a sophomore because they took every single AP. However, that's about 4 or 5 years ago. What we've noticed is that they don't necessarily, I think what's happening now, I don't know, all right, what we're conjecturing is what's happening now that colleges are saying, well, wait a minute. If we give all these credits, somebody can get out in 3 years, and I'm not going to say that it's because they're not getting the tuition money, but that's what we're noticing. Now, what I will tell you is sometimes it also depends on the major. So, for example, if you take AP biology and you score very well, but you're going to go into a competitive, a selective university, and you're going to major in biology, they generally want you to take their own. What students have told us, though, is that having taken the AP class in high school, they are better prepared and they find it easier when they go there. So there are positives, but we're finding that it really depends. Recently, my counselors will say, Hudson Valley, we had a number of students last summer. Hudson Valley Community College all of a sudden offered free courses over the summer. We had a number of kids who decided to take advantage of that. Now, we don't know whether they're going to accept them or not, but you can take it for free, and then instead of paying the tuition, we also had another student, again, in my mind, who I can tell you took AP courses all the way through, 4s and 5s on all of them, social studies all the way through, and went to a very selective college who would only accept one social studies because they don't now, and so it certainly wasn't the score, but they're only taking one. So we're beginning in the, we've seen a change in the last few years about that.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? I got one quick thing to say. So we had you guys in about a year ago and talked about the DC trip a little bit, talked about Irish history, and just to see the pictures of both things in here is just, it's great in that amount of time to see, those things that were discussed and see them grow and see them happen with success. So everybody that was part of the DC trip, thank you so much for making that a reality for our students again. Irish history course, I think there's nothing more appalling than that. I don't know how many school districts would run a class the first year with X number of kids without it being a certain number, but that's appalling right there. That's trying to get it off the ground, like Mrs. Cowan said last year, and having that flexibility, kind of to Mr. Tucci's question, and giving teachers the ability to start classes like this. I just think it's great. So thank you guys so much for your time tonight and for the great presentation. So thank you. All that said, we can welcome Nala. And Nala, if you have any remarks to make this evening, I'll turn it over to you.
I would just like to say thank you to all the teachers who are representing the social studies district. As a high school student, it is evident that the social studies teachers are working really hard to make the social studies courses very interesting and engaging for the students. And last year, I really did enjoy Ms. Shook's AP history class, and she's an amazing teacher. And I'm currently enjoying AP Humanities as well, and it's very engaging for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So next on our agenda, we have, again, this is if you look at the agenda online, we have administrative reports. As always, I'll just make a comment. If you can take a look at those, we have our admin put some time into those. You can really learn about what's going on in the schools and different departments. So definitely take a look at that in the agenda for anybody watching at home. And next up, we're on to our agenda order. So I'll turn it over to our district clerk, Ms. Fasheen.
Yes, thank you. We have 3 addendum items this week. Just a few edits to appointments. One is rescinding the appointment of a Dungeons and Dragons Club advisor, amending the high school student council advisor appointment, and then the appointment of a debate team advisor at the high school.
Cool. And I'll read the items with an asterisk, are items that the superintendent recommends for the consent agenda. I'll read that after this, sorry. So resolve to approve the following additions, deletions, changes in order of the agenda as presented. I'll make a motion for that. Anybody second?
Second.
Michael, and all in favor? Aye. And 4 there. So the items with an asterisk are items the superintendent recommends for the consent agenda. If any board member wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda, please do it so at this time. 1 vote, all asterisk items. All right, we're good there. So now we're on to number 10, visitor comments. Oh, that's all right. I assume there was none. Right, and there are none. So now we'll go to item 11 on the agenda, which is board remarks. Would any board member like to make any remarks this evening? Cool. So we'll go to number 12. But yeah, of course, go ahead.
The National Honor Society was held last week, and it was just a beautiful event. I had never attended before. Happy to say that I was there as a parent, but just as a community member. The speech was from Nathan Pandolfo was quite moving. I thought there would be a little bit more of a turnout from, like, I just thought it'd be a little, maybe more, some more parents or some more community members, but it was amazing. The students were great. Miss Callan, it was really wonderful event. So just wanted to make the comment. And the advisors.
Thank you so much, Liz. Anybody else would like to make some board remarks this evening? All right, so we'll turn it over to Dr. Walsh for board vice president comments.
Good evening. I hope everybody's having a great week. Fall sports are wrapping up. 2 weeks ago, we had our varsity football senior night. They had their salute to service game, and they had a very exciting double overtime win against Onteora. They also had a big win last week against Tri-Valley, which is on Halloween, and they will now play at Sullivan West on Friday for the Section 9 semifinal. Our varsity boys soccer team had a really tough, heartbreaking loss to Valhalla in their home sectional game. Many of those boys have been playing together since they were 4 years old on the lakeside soccer fields. After the game, I spoke to a lot of different players and parents. The theme that I really heard was sadness that it was over, not sadness that they lost. The underclassmen talked about their time with the seniors being over. They all talked about how important it was for them to have been together. So I just thought that was a really, very Pauling-esque, about our community, what it says about us. So I thought that was really lovely to see. The girls' varsity field hockey team dominated in their first sectional game against Hastings. I was able to watch it on the Huddle live stream, and I hope people are aware that that does exist and that we have more opportunities to post that when games are offered that way for people to see. They did then move forward and lose against Rye on Friday. They had a great season, and again, I heard so many positive things from the players and their parents about what a great community it was to be a part of. Cross country had a big day of PRs when they competed at the Northern County meet with multiple students medaling, and they will advance to the state qualifiers this Saturday. The winter sports signups are well underway, with varsity and JV sports starting on Monday, November 17th, and modified sports start November 19th. Thank you to the PTA for another wonderful trunk or treat. was really impressive. It was well run. It was organized. It was a very fun night. They changed kind of the setup of where the cars were, but it was really lovely. Thank you to the many families and community organizations who provide trunks. People are incredibly creative. We saw many of our students participate. The peer leadership was there. Their elementary fall dance is coming up on November 21st. The PTSA is currently hosting a t-shirt design contest, so we hope middle school and high school students will participate. And the annual fall clothing drive is this Sunday from 10 to 4 in the high school loop. Thank you to the Tiger Club for all their work on the Snack Shack this fall season. I think it was a really wonderful addition to our stadium, and they did a really nice job of helping teams fundraise and find ways to support each other. They continue to provide snack bags for one away game for each team, and they also contribute a little bit of money for each team's senior night, which I can personally tell you is very welcome. You can mark your calendars now for May 4th. It's going to be the 2026 Tiger Golf outing, which is a fundraiser for all 3 of our community groups. Ms. Shook mentioned the field trip to the Dutchess County Courthouse last week. I can, again, personally attest it was a really wonderful field trip. My son said it was the most important field trip he's had in his whole high school career, and that he really felt it was impactful. I can second what Ms. Kazakria said. The National Honor Society induction was lovely. Alumni Nathan Pandolfo spoke about the pillars of the National Honor Society and tied them to his interest in the medical field. It was very creative and really engaging. The middle school also had a successful Halloween dance, and they had a really fun fall field day last Friday. If you haven't already seen the buzz, November 14th and 15th is their fall musical production, Willy Wonka. If you haven't seen our middle schoolers perform yet, you really should make sure it's on your calendar. That we have so much talent in that building. It promises to be a great show, and I'm anticipating a lot of lead up to it, but mark your calendars now for the 14th and 15th. Signups opened yesterday for parent-teacher conferences in all 3 of our buildings. All the signups are now done online. Middle schoolers and high schoolers are asked to join their parents for a family conference as they talk about their progress. Lastly, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Nick Robert Shaw. Nick recently announced his resignation from our audit committee. Nick has been on our committee for almost 6 years. He was at the end of his 2nd term, and he is resigning to move into retirement. He has really been a steady presence since I've been on the committee. He was always calm, professional, insightful. He asked good questions, and everything he did was clear that it was in the best interest of the district. So we want to wish him well and thank him for all of his service. And with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of their week.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. And that brings us to item 13 on the agenda, which is our superintendent's comments. So I turn over to Mr. DiCarlo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just want to echo some of the sentiments, and I mentioned this last week at the National Honor Society induction ceremony. I've been doing this for a long time, and I have to tell you, it's all about those nights. Last week was just absolutely incredible, from the speech that we mentioned about Nathan being a graduate here, and his speech was unbelievable, and this community should be so very proud of him, from our president, vice president, who did an outstanding job doing a little narration of each one of the inductees, to the inductees. I think it was one of the largest classes of inductees we've had in a while, which is a great testament to this entire district, right? Because as I echo this all the time, although a lot of these great accolades happen in the high school, it's a K-12 discussion, right? So it's a tribute to not only the staff here, but parents, right? And it's a celebration of parents too, and all their dedication and time behind the success of these students. So I congratulate all the honorees. I also want to congratulate the seniors this year who participated in our sports programs. I was able to make it to the senior nights, and, you know, seeing smiles on their faces and the time and dedication that they've started, since some of them have started in 8th grade, being on a high school program, the time and energy, not only by themselves, but their parents running them back and forth to practices and games, and their coaches really having some beautiful things to say. So congratulations to all those full senior athletes. For the juniors, I know some of what Vice President Walsh says. It's heartbreaking, but you are a junior, so you get to come back. And you know what that feeling is like, and you know what it's going to take to work twice as hard to get back where you are, right? Because once people realize you're good, then everybody's aiming for you. So I think you're going to see some great things next year in all sports. And as was mentioned, just a quick reminder that next week On the 10th, we have a superintendent's conference day. You heard about the great things in the professional development that's going on. That's a day in which we do a lot of that work behind the scenes that we can get to. And then, of course, on next Tuesday is Veterans Day, and we'll be celebrating and thanking all of our veterans that served this country so well and meaningful to make us be able to do what we're doing here today. So, again, on behalf of myself, I thank everybody for all the work and what they've done. The first quarter's over, right? And so it's amazing how quickly things go by. And we have a great 3 quarters of the year left with a lot of great things happening and coming up. So I thank you, Mr. President. I turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. And that'll bring us to item number 14 on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. It reads, resolve that the Board of Education approves all asterisk items as the consent agenda. I'll make a motion. May I have a second? Liz, and all in favor? Aye. And that's everybody. Now we're on to 15, which is the minutes. It reads, resolve that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the following meeting. It is the October 21st, 2025 meeting. I'll make a motion for that. May I have a second for that one? Say Sandro, and all in favor of the minutes? Aye. Aye, that's unanimous. So that'll bring us all the way to flip. That brings us to 20. So this is unfinished business. So start with our superintendent search update. So I wrote something out. Again, as always, if anybody would like to add anything or please feel free to do so. So as I shared last time, our application process opened in October, on October 17th. In a couple of weeks since then, we have had a healthy amount of applicants, and as according to the search firm, they've been steadily coming in. According to the search firm as well, things are progressing well in the process, and they continue to advertise and recruit applicants on their end. We have a community forum that's set for December 1st, the evening of Monday, December 1st. This forum is going to occur in a hybrid setting. So it's going to be both in person and virtual, and there's going to be search firm members running both. So somebody in person and then somebody working with everyone who can only sign in online. Any way that you can be a part of that would be great. Again, the more participation, the better with this whole process, so we can collect as much good data in terms of what the community wants, and we can act accordingly. And in addition to that, we have a community survey. So a big thank you to Trustee Casacrius, who spent a lot of time on that, working with everybody's feedback, and that should be finalized here in the next couple of days. And once that's finalized, we'll be sure to advertise that through all of our different board and district channels to make sure, again, that we can get as much broad feedback as possible to ensure that everybody's voice is heard in this really important process. Again, just so everybody knows, we've made a mention this a couple times. Responses with the surveys are not by name. We only see the information by demographics. So if you're a parent of an elementary student or a staff member, a teacher, so on and so forth. And again, that's something that we find really important, so people can be as honest and forthcoming as possible. So again, we can have the best data to make the best decision. Again, we want honest and thorough feedback that helps us serve the community in this important task and our important role. Another thing we're looking at, and maybe if Mr. Carlo wants to jump in or anybody, is student voice. So I know we're going to be looking at how students can play a role in providing feedback and what this looks like. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I had first student circle meeting actually at the high school in the library with all of the class officers, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class. Principal Callan was there, the advisors were there, and we really had I think, a really good conversation about the importance of student voice, how their thoughts and ideas are really important, because as adults, sometimes we make decisions for them, and they need to make decisions for themselves. So it was a really, really, I think, in-depth conversation. We had a great conversation. We actually have a meeting coming up on the 24th, and I am happy to say that some of what we talked about is their communication with their classes, right? So if I'm an elected official, that's a Freudian, well, although they are elected and they are an official. But anyway, how do they get information to their class? So if I'm the senior class president, things are happening, how do I let my classmates know? And what they said to us is that, yeah, there's the monitors, but do the kids really look at it, right? There's flyers, but are they looking at that? But yet, once school is out, they get on their phone, they're looking at it. So we're looking at a way, and we're working, and Mr. Quinones is not here, but we are going to be rolling out to them that they actually can do that. That as a class officer, you can be in contact with your class, getting information to them quickly, talking about questions or things that they may want to see, and they be able to get responses back to you. So we're really trying to empower them to understand that their role is so vitally important in what we do, both sometimes academically, as we talked about choices, and of course, when it comes to school spirit and other things that are going on. So it was a great conversation. I think it's the beginning of really a great dialogue as we move forward, not only this year, but for years to come. And thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much. And again, just to finish up, so this process now is kind of into the stakeholder engagement, and every single one of us up here really thought it to be very important that this piece of this puzzle, this piece of this process was something that was going to really enable us and empower us to make the best decision. So as these surveys and the forums take place, we are going to try our best to advertise and to get that information out and to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to participate, from staff members, community members, old, young, everywhere in between, because we really want to know what the community is looking for, and we can make that decision, and we can go through this process that's tasked with us to serve the community. That's our job, right? So we're excited about this stakeholder engagement piece and knowing that this is starting. And again, Laura, thank you so much for all your time and setting up all these meetings and stuff. I know it's not easy, to say the least, so that is all appreciated by us as well. But that's my update with the superintendent search. And again, if anybody would like to add anything, please, thank you again for your input, Mr. Carl, but please feel free to do so. All right. So the next thing, I'm going to turn it over to Keith and Michelle. We're going to continue discussing the curriculum committee. So if one of you would like to start talking about your meeting last week.
Yeah, we had a great meeting with Dr. Kirkus and Mr. DiCarlo. Michelle and I, went really well. We just opened up lines of communications. I was able to attend elementary school pilot program meeting. I think there's another one tomorrow that I'll be going to. And I think it was great just to hear where everyone's at, that we're getting stakeholders together. I hope the message was sent that the board's just here to support, you know, the whole process, the teachers, just getting more information, hearing from all different stakeholders is really important. We talked a lot about whatever program we chose, how important it is to have fidelity in that program so that teachers have enough PD time. I know, Mr. DiCarlo, we had a conversation, I think it was yesterday, about looking at the schedule for next year, see if we can open up more time for teachers to really jump into the program so that, well, there are some teachers that are piling different programs, the ones that, whichever program we choose, they should have time with their grade levels to just introduce the program, go through the pros and cons. Obviously, not every program's perfect, so that things are going to have to be adjusted. So we're hoping to have more time for them next year to do that. I'm just going through my list. Oh, they did do some visits. I don't know if do you want to speak to that? Because the information you gave me was great. I don't know if it could be great to hear from you on that.
Right. So our literacy coach, Jenny Salvaggi, had arranged, she and I had kind of coordinated and arranged for 2 school visits for the 2 schools in the area that were piloting both the programs. And I attended both of them. One was Spackenkill and one was Catskill School District. The most recent one was Catskill. I think that was the day after our meeting, the meeting at the elementary school. They were just wonderful hosts to us. We spent pretty much the whole morning. We visited, I think it was 5 different classrooms or 4 different classrooms. We had time to talk to the principal. After our visit, there was time to debrief with the teachers about the program. You know, this way we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can kind of go through it, use their expertise and their experiences if that's and we had a similar experience at Spackenkill for the other program. So we found these to be so valuable. We talked everything from scheduling to materials to small group to professional development, the needs. So it was really, really time well spent. And I think the whole literacy committee was there. I think it was pretty much everyone from the committee was able to make both of these school visits. So I feel like we're getting closer to, you know, the more favored program. The upcoming conference day, the entire elementary school classroom teaching staff will have the opportunity to dive into the materials, to hear from both of the consultants from both companies, time to talk to their colleagues, look at materials, ask questions. So we really want to pretty much turn over all the stones to make sure that we're doing this right. And I appreciate you attending our meeting. I think
Yeah,
we
I
got
just
a
wanted
picture
to
of that.
thank you too with, at the meeting was, just your approach to really hear from the staff to say, how is this how can we efficiently and effectively use our time, go through the programs, turnkey it to other staff members. I think it was great. And, your approach is just open and willing to listen to all stakeholders. And I think it was great. It was really, an excellent meeting. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow too, to see people. And I think it's great that you guys are working with us and giving us time to get into the schools and really, because we want to be hands-on and support you as well and just make sure we're hearing from everyone. I think it's great that we have the opportunity to go to the schools and talk to the staff and hopefully get to see some of the kids as they're walking out. But it's been a great process. We're really looking forward to it. And then the other thing we talked about was just making sure, and I think at the last board meeting, Mr. DeCarlo, you talked about the 3 to 5 year process. The parents need to understand that this isn't going to be a 1 year and everything's going to, teachers need time to work through the process. Parents need to be informed of what that process is going to be. And it's going to take some time to work out the kinks, but we're hoping 3 to 5 years, if we put the time in and use the fidelity and have everything set, that we're going to see some great things. We're excited about it. So appreciate both of you allowing us the time. And Michelle, if you wanted to add something.
I second that. It was a really great meeting. Met for quite a while and discussed a lot of things. We are not 100% what exactly this curriculum committee looks like, but we took a lot of steps into figuring out, what comes next and what it might look like. With all the work being done in the elementary school, we have decided that that's where we're going to focus this year. And it was really nice to be able to work together and, throw ideas around. I think you pretty much covered everything that we really spoke about. We going to look at the calendar, like Keith said, and get creative with some of the days. It might not be something that everybody is super excited about. If that means that we might have to have some half days thrown in so that the teachers can get the professional development that they need. It's kind of just something we're going to stick behind the teachers, stick behind the administration, and what we need so that the literacy proficiency and all that can be improved. So it'll be a team effort.
Very much.
I'd like to just ask a couple of clarifying questions about this committee. So you guys met and you met to discuss the goal of the committee? Like what the purpose of the committee is going to be? Because I heard that it was a good meeting that you attended. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, it sounds like you're, I don't know, maybe giving direction to people.
We're just gathering information. I think our goal is the pilot program right now in the literacy at the elementary school. So that's our primary goal. So we're going to gather information so that we know we're involved in the process, so we know how things are being.
So with the goal to bring that information back to the full board so that then we can all discuss it. Got it.
Because
Okay.
eventually we're going to have to vote on the curriculum and there's an expense with that. So
Okay.
we felt like if we were more involved, then we could bring
No,
that
no,
information
and I think
back.
that that's good. I just wanted to try to understand sort of where where you guys were in that process. Because I wasn't fully sure, right? But it's important because it's a lot of work that's happening and you guys spending your time obviously to attend the meetings and, and hear directly from stakeholders. Great that you'd be able to bring that information back, and give the full board, an opportunity to hear directly. That's
Yeah, I
good.
think
So that's
it's
what I wanted to try to understand, because then you also had a separate meeting just with Superintendent DeCarlo and Dr. Kirkus. Oh. Sorry.
I want to just make sure I attended the pilot program meetings at the elementary school.
Right.
So when they presented, they invited us to come to the meeting, so I went to one. Tomorrow is another one. So those
Okay.
meetings, the four of us had a meeting just on the curriculum
Those are the
committee.
pilot meetings that were mentioned at the last board meeting that we were all
Yes.
invited to. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say one other thing for, I think the other goal too, and we talked about this at the meeting, is that when everybody's on the same page, whether it's board, district office administrator, teachers, elementary administrator, if everybody's on the same page and they're feeling supported and they're feeling heard and everybody has the same goal, I think that really encourages the fidelity of the program, that everybody understands that we're investing time, energy, money into this program, so that when it is in place, everybody should be all in, comfortable with it, ready to go. Shouldn't be any questions. And if there are, if we need more time or support, whatever we need to do to make sure that it's running smoothly and everybody's on the same page, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I think
There's
that's
going to
part of it.
always be a lot of questions, right? I mean, that's for sure. But I just wanted to understand how it was all going to flow. That's, that was unclear to me. So thank you for that. I mean, I'm glad that you guys are spending the time to do that. That's, that's great. So if the flow then is to come back here so that we're all informed, that makes me feel much more at ease. So thank you.
Do you want to add anything, Mr.
No,
DeCarlo?
No, I think it was well stated. I said from the beginning on this is a major investment this district is going to be putting forward for the next 3 to 5 years. I have been actively involved in the discussions. I actually attended today a meeting with regards to a PLC, which was a fourth grade PLC, and seeing Jenny working with the fourth grade teachers to talk about kind of how you kind of roll over between the work we're doing now with TC and then how that looks in the units of study that are going to be, piloted or are being piloted and what that looks like. Great conversation. So yeah, it's important, and the board should know. And I think Sandro's pointing to the point of the two of us meeting with Dr. Gerkes, because she is the assistant superintendent for instruction. It's important, and it needs everybody to be on that same page and be moving forward together is really an important piece to it. And I think sharing this with the community, so the community understands that it is something that is valued, something that we know, down the road, we want to be able to have our third graders be at grade level in reading so that we can really take off and do some of the great things as they then go up to middle school and to high school. And I think that's a really important piece that the community understands that. And so when I come to you, and interesting enough, Trustee Tucci, yesterday, I was starting to take a glance at next year's calendar. And so when it comes to presenting to the board, usually in February, the calendar for next year, you will hear a discussion on my part about why you'll see some differences in it because of the need of professional development along the way, so that parents can plan ahead of time and it's not just done on a spur of the moment. Like, we're doing this and here's the reason why. Because remember, we started this conversation back on November 4th about what it looks like. So that's the piece to it.
Can I ask one additional thing? As you mentioned, parents. Is the committee also, is a goal of the committee also to develop a parent, a parent guide or, because we have spoken about, and Keith, I think in your very first meeting, you talked about the importance of working with parents and helping the parents, have some guidance in the home, so that they can collaborate with the school and help their children. So is this going to be a part of what the committee also works on?
We actually did discuss some of that during our meeting. We talked about, how students can bring work home, and we talked about how, this isn't just for the students who need to be proficient, but the students who are proficient or above proficiency, how we can make them go even further and add more rigor to the, to the curriculum. So we did discuss all those things, and I think as our meetings go on, we'll definitely be bringing back to you guys and letting you know the different ways.
That's
Trustee
great. That's
yeah.
really good.
I think
Yeah,
it's also going to be determined once the program is decided. that what you were going to say?
Yeah, I
didn't cut
was,
you off.
but we're also doing, I don't want you to, because, you know, last time this came up at a board meeting, so I just want to reflect back on it. We have begun the process at a meeting last week. We have another one coming up about that workshop. And so we're going to be, we're doing it in January, and we'll be previewing what that's going to look like, right? Because it's twofold. Not only is it the new program that we're looking at, but we also want to start to, and I know that the elementary school has really begun to roll out to teachers about MTSS, then it's got to be that component with parents, right? So that's some of the work that we're going to start to be doing in previewing some of what needs to be done. So it's a great point.
The comment, I know when we started, to discuss about setting up this committee, when you think about it, sometimes with some of these committees that you're trying to put together, it's tough to write down exactly what you think you're going to be doing on the committee. I mean, you just set up some goals and you try to figure out exactly what you want to cover in the committees. But from what you both just shared in terms of what kind of happened at those committees, I mean, are the admin line, all the administrative reports, the curriculum reports that we just got tonight, there's so much information that we get here at the board meetings. And at this particular stage, I think that what you both shared, what's going on at these committee meetings is just very important to sort of increase those sort of communication checkpoints in between board meetings to really understand. I know we talk about fidelity, and I know I've said it before, you can't manage what you can't measure. So I look at like these committee meetings as sort of, measurements, along the way. And I think it's really important. It's very beneficial. And so thank you for that update. That's exactly what I kind of wanted to hear out of those committee meetings. So that was really good.
Anything else on curriculum committee before we move on? All right, so we have one last thing on our unfinished business, and this is regarding our policy procedure that was spoken about a couple of meetings ago. And just the quick thing with this, if everyone was up for it, the idea, kind of putting the teacher hat on for a second, was that perhaps, so everybody can get a really good feel and an idea of what this looks like, to model it at our next board meeting. To go through it one time and see what it looks like in terms of talking about an old policy, deciding what we want to do with that. Is it good as it is? Do we want to refer it to the policy committee? Everyone offer a little bit of perspective on it so the policy committee has something to work with. Kind of all that discussion we spoke about being proactive and everybody having a say on the front end. So the policy committee has all the perspective to work with, and then can obviously hopefully do some even better work than we've done with that. So the goal would be, and I think Mr. DeCarlo will speak on this too in a second as to what he will be bringing to the next meeting, but the goal would be just to model it before we codify it or take steps to officially adopt the new practice. It would just be beneficial for everybody to see it, what it would look like. So that's kind of the thinking, if that was okay with everybody.
Yeah, the only thing I would ask is, I think you had 3 options for when things come up.
Yep.
I think it's 2 options. It either goes to, committee or it doesn't. Right?
Yeah, and essentially, no official, and again, because I know we spoke about this last time, there's no getting rid of first reading, second reading, and anything like that. Still resolutions to get rid of policies, and that wouldn't be on the agenda that evening. So if everybody said, that's an outdated policy after discussing with legal, that it's something we don't need, it does not just go away. There needs to be
It's
resolutions.
still the
done.
process,
Yeah, so
yeah.
essentially, and I think this is a good reason to model it, essentially, that is the only 2 options, is policy committee or not. Now, granted, it doesn't read exactly as that, but that is essentially kind of what is happening. Now, any work that's being done, votes and all that, are not any sort of official resolution of votes. It's just a means of
Just a
showing
communication
correct,
here.
the communication tool to show the will of the majority. Because I think what we've seen in the past is, 3-member policy committees have had a gatekeeping of sorts on what gets looked at or maybe doesn't. And
No, I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because I think over the years we've spoken about the idea of, socializing that a little bit better, right? As opposed to just sort of popping up, with policy and then show up at a meeting here and it's like, okay, this is the policy we're reviewing today. And,
Yeah.
So this is a definite, in my view, I guess your view is an improvement. So in the language, as I remember it from last time, like there were 3 options, and then I thought a little bit more about it. And I was like, well, it either goes to policy or it doesn't, and so that was the only sort of thing that jumped out at me. But I love the idea of doing this. I think we take it, like you said, for a trial run and see how it feels.
That sounds good. And the one, like, not going to policy, you know, we could kind of mark it as, like, so let's say, for example, we have a policy that's legally required. It's something we haven't looked at since 1997, and we say, oh, it doesn't need to go to policy committee. Then we can still, you know, say, would everybody feel good about putting this on the next agenda as a readoption? And, you know, just to kind of turn over our books so we make note that we did it. But you're right. Essentially, the two options are policy committee or not. And so thank you for that. And yeah, the language is definitely not finalized anyway. Again, before we codify or make it official, it would definitely, discussions would most certainly happen. So, so yeah, I guess we can model it. And if you want to speak about,
Yeah, so what would happen is that the Friday before the board meeting, similar to what we do with a presentation, I'll send it out so that you can take a look at it. So then when it is, you know, brought up together that following Tuesday, you have a little bit of an understanding about, you know, what the policy is. You can read over it. And then if you have any questions along that night, we can have the discussion around it.
That
Okay.
presentation that we would receive the Friday before the board meeting, that would include, you know, hey, these are updates that we have to provide to it, like that kind of
We're going to do
information?
one update. Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to take one specific, you know, policy and take a look at it, but that's how it would work, correct?
Okay, so we would understand if there were things that were, hey,
Yeah,
we're
so we're
required
saying
to
that, please
update
take
this.
a look
Okay,
at
so there would
these
be
are
like
some of the
a,
things. Yeah,
call it like a set of cliff notes or
Yeah,
something like that? Okay,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
understand, because that's what we would do at a policy meeting,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, like you said, clip notes too. Like, this is in no way turning into public policy business that's going to be 6 hours long, like you see in some board meetings. This is Mr. DeCarlo sending it out on Friday, gives everybody the idea, okay, this is a policy that, you know, again, the policy committee is either considering looking at or not, and, or an old policy that, what do we want to do with it? And it is preliminary, just a little bit of context, a little bit of front end, and then we can go through the normal process.
That sounds good, thank you.
One other, is it going to be one policy?
First one,
Yeah,
was-
First one was
yeah.
one?
Yep, one,
Okay.
exactly right. So
Because your original one was 3, right?
2.
2, okay.
2, and 1 I think would be a good way to start. And we can
start,
see, I mean,
right.
again, this is a model, we can see how it goes. And again, if anybody wants to bring one up and, you know, the whole thing we kind of talked about, but it's starting with 1 and just kind of get an idea, and we can, you know, make a decision before codifying that actually has some experience.
And we're
in it.
going through based on age?
It
way
may,
of saying-
may be based on
Something
current
that you
policy
feel is
and
important.
NISBA, what we may have to put on the docket.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so, and Ryan and I are working through that.
I mean, sometimes, I mean, this time maybe you won't, but I mean, sometimes things come up and you have to address them sooner rather than later. So, you know, it might be like, hey, next month is 3, and, you know, one of them is sort of under the guise of what we're talking about, and the others are because, hey, like, changed by NISMA or something, you know.
Flexible. We're going to be flexible with how we go about putting those policies on based on the importance of it or.
100%. Yep. So this is never meant to bog down and to say, you know, yeah, this is all meant to just, like, hopefully by the end of it, everyone here has a very good idea of what the policy committee will be looking at the December meeting. So it's November 18th. Everyone here would have a relative idea what the policy committee is looking at in the December meeting. And in that time, you can just prepare for, you know, the first and second readings of those policies. So you're not just getting it at a board meeting and, or, you know, the couple days before, and you've got to do all this work in a short period of time. Now it's getting a little more proactive on the front end. So yeah, it's definitely going to be flexible in that sense. So that's all I have for that. So
Zach, is
Yep.
the policy committee going to be meeting on the 17th? That was our,
that's the date in
I
December,
think
I
that
believe.
was-
December 17th?
No, I think it was November.
Oh, November 17th. Our board meeting is November 18th.
are we tabling that so we have this first go around with this on the 18th?
I believe legal was not available on the 17th. That's, I believe that, yes, I think the 17th meeting was not going to work out. Yeah. I think we still had to wait official word on that, but I believe the November 17th meeting is not going to be able. So then the 18th, we'd go model this, and then the December meeting that I forget off the top of my head, I apologize. That would be. Thank you all for that. So that brings us to item number 21, which is new business. Does anybody have any new business that they wish to this evening? So now we're on to item 22, which is our second visitors' comments. This is pertaining to the district, 3 minutes per person, and we have none, so thank you. And next up, we have our 23 board president comments. I would like to say too, between Dr. Walsh's vice president comments and the administrative reports, I mean, there are really 2 amazing avenues to just keep current with what's going on. I mean, you always do a great job. Tonight I thought was really good. The other ones are good. Tonight was really, no, you did a great job. Yeah, that's right. The 2 pages, that's right. No, I don't know if I've ever said thank you for that, but thank you for all the time and effort you put into that and giving all those updates and, from everything from the parent-teacher conference signups and that new system to the scores and all the events and thanking the audit committee member. I thought that was great. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, the administrative reports are a good way to keep up with district affairs. My board president comments tonight are going to be very, very short and sweet. It is November already, and before you know it, it's going to be budget season, and we're going to be in the middle of the superintendent search, scheduling all these things, and it's going to get really, really, really busy. But I would like to share that it is a pleasure and an honor to serve with everybody sits up here, and I'm looking forward to the craziness that is to come in the new year and in our meetings coming forth. This group has a lot of work ahead of us, and I would not be rather serving with anyone else. I think this group is ready to tackle all those challenges, and I look forward to it. So I just want to say to everybody, thank you, and it's an honor serving with you. And those are my comments tonight and probably every night from now until the end of the year. So with that said, item 24, adjourn the meeting. Resolve that the Board of Education adjourn this meeting. The time is
8:25 PM.
8:25. I'll make a motion, and may I please have a second?
Second.
Michael, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.